I was watching the coverage of the Oscars recently and was reminded of the behaviour of one of the best known ADHD alumni in the world, the Fresh Prince himself, Mr. Will Smith. Will's impulsive behaviour was a spectacularly bad move, and while I obviously don't condone physical assaults on trash-talking comedians, could at least understand his actions in the light of my own checkered history and my knowledge of ADHD. On that subject, pro tip, don't hit a doorman, no matter how rude he is. And while I was waiting to see if any other A-list movie stars would decide to flush their career down the shitter live on global television, the main reason I was actually watching was to cheer on Everything Everywhere All at Once. As I watched it win 7 of the 11 categories it was nominated for, it occurred to me that the title of the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once is a near perfect description of ADHD. Because as you know, ADHD is not a disorder of attention, rather it is the inability to focus attention. And part of the reason we have such a hard time doing this is because we're deficient in the kind of subconscious filters that are present in the brains of neurotypical people. We hear the ticking of the clock, the air conditioning unit, the squeaky chair wheel, the chirping birds, the hum of a monitor, the click of a mouse button, the dog barking 2 blocks away, the aeroplane flying overhead, and that really weird noise our stomach keeps making. We listen to and put our attention upon everything, everywhere, all at once. Not because we want to, but because we have difficulty blocking out the unimportant stuff. And then it occurred to me that I cannot possibly be the only person that's reflected on the ADHD as fuck nature of Everything Everywhere All at Once. And so I Googled it. Turns out that its roots in ADHD go much deeper than I could ever have imagined. One of the amazing writer-directors, Dan Kwan, was inspired to research ADHD after realising how very ADHD-like he'd subconsciously written the main character, Evelyn Wang, played so brilliantly by Michelle Yeoh. And in doing that research, he discovered that, yep, you guessed it, he had ADHD. Here's a quote from the interview he did with Salon.com.
I started doing some research, and then I stayed up until like 4 in the morning, just reading everything I could find about it, just crying, just realizing that, oh my God, I think I have ADHD. So this movie is the reason why I got diagnosed. I went to therapy for a year and then went to a psychiatrist. And I'm now on meds, and it's such a beautiful, cathartic experience to realize why your life has been so hard. This movie, obviously, when you look at it now, was made by someone with ADHD.
Yep, he's one of us, guys. Bit more successful, possibly, with all the Oscars and everything, but still a brother in arms in the ADHD army, conscripted at birth like all of us. Everything Everywhere All at Once is to ADHD what The Lord of the Rings is to road trips. The incredible film script, once you start examining it properly, is like a manual of ADHD life tips. And so, in honour of Dan, an official member of this ADHD army of ours, I thought it'd be cool to pick out the most ADHD quotes from that script and talk about why they so completely nail the ADHD experience. I've talked about guilt on this channel before because for me, it's one of the defining impacts of ADHD. If you are diagnosed later in life, like Muggins here, then you spent the bulk of your life living with a quiet shame. The shame is primarily focused on two things: letting other people down and not living up to your potential. We are human beings flawed in a particularly ruthless way because the disorder that shapes our lives is completely invisible from the outside. It doesn't affect us physically, and for the most part, it doesn't alter our talking voice. So when we fail to do something because we're stuck with diminished get shit done dopamine, or we fail to turn up for an appointment, or we get angry with a close friend, we feel guilt. We spend our lives feeling guilty. And one of the coping mechanisms we use to deal with this guilt is to drink too much, or take drugs, or overeat, or simply withdraw from society completely, because if nothing matters, all the pain and guilt goes away. Low self-esteem is a core effect of ADHD. We are this world's big disappointments, forever letting people down, and we're brutally self-aware of this fact. As soon as we are able to formalize it in our brains, our own internalized feelings of disappointment start building. At best, this low self-esteem turns into a kind of furious force leading to some success in school or work, but more normally it turns into a kind of sanguine acceptance of our fates. And at worst, it ends in self-destruction of one kind or another. But the truth is that we still fight against it as best we can. And sometimes our overactive brains come up with a workable solution. We might have hot dogs for fingers, but we got good with our feet. Ah, yes, boredom, the great enemy of the ADHD brain. If nothing is capturing our attention, it makes its presence known, and being impulsive, distracted individuals, we cannot mask that boredom like the normies. So even though we've been on hold for 15 minutes and we're allegedly number 2 in the queue, and even though we did have that option at the start of the phone call to have the bank call us back, we hang up the phone. And even though we aren't hungry, we eat something. And even though we know it's dangerous, we overtake that slow driver that's doing 50 in the 70, the arsehole. And even though we've been threatened with suspension, we act up in the classroom. Intense boredom is a manifestation of the dopamine-deprived brain, and will do anything to escape its grip. We can and do put everything on a bagel. Sweet Jesus, the things we've picked up and dropped, the hobbies we pursued with a white-hot passion for a week and then abandoned. We really struggle to do stuff that doesn't interest us, and so we concentrate on the things we enjoy, our hobbies. And since those hobbies are the only things we can do consistently, we sometimes try and turn them into jobs. But unfortunately, you don't get to call yourself an author if you've never finished writing a book. And even though it happens repeatedly through our lives, we fail to understand that the second you turn a hobby into a job, it begins transforming into a chore. I sometimes wonder if the best pub trivia team in the world might be one in which every member has ADHD. We're like magpies for useless fucking information. If we don't need to know about it, we need to know about it. We disappear down rabbit holes on Reddit and Wikipedia. We read about the Bermuda National Grid, about the Dublin Mountains Way, about the Rhine River, about Shizuoka Prefecture, about Harvey Goodrich, about Hellboy. We pick things up and we drop them. We are feverishly invested in something for 10 minutes and then we're not. We're bad at everything but capable of anything. There is a portion of your brain called the default mode network that comprises, are you ready for this? The dorsal medial prefrontal cortex, posterior cingulate cortex, precuneus, and angular gyrus. And this portion of the brain sees way more action in people with ADHD than people who do not, because it is known for being active when a person is not focused on the outside world, and the brain is at what scientists refer to as wakeful rest. Yes, when you find yourself staring out a window into space, that is wakeful rest. When you realise you're drooling, head planted in hand, that is wakeful rest. When you're sat in front of the old telly, but blissfully unaware of anything that's happened in the last 15 minutes, that is wakeful rest. How many times have you been jolted back to reality by someone tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Are you with us?" Or clapping their hands in front of your face and saying, "Hello, ground control to Major Tom." We are here, we're just thinking. As Dr. Russell Barkley pointed out in his famous lectures, ADHD is a failure to plan for the future. We are usually incapable of doing anything about a task or deadline until it is upon us. When you leave everything at the last minute, that means that life is one non-stop panic. In fact, I reckon that the stock ADHD emoji should be the shocked face, the face we pull when we realise, usually too late, that we're supposed to have done something or been somewhere. We're like the opening scene from Four Weddings and a Funeral when Hugh Grant's character discovers he's overslept every day of our lives. We spend a far greater portion of our lives stressed out, cortisol pumping out of our adrenal glands than the normies, which inevitably means we're never fully there, and the moments when anything makes sense are a rare treat and an otherwise adrenaline-fueled assault course through life. Yep, if you have ADHD, you have a 70% greater chance of being obese than someone who does not have ADHD. The reasons for this are becoming increasingly clear. The first reason is due to abnormal eating patterns. Binge eating, skipping breakfast, eating in the evening and at night, eating high calorie and snack or junk food, and mood eating when you hoe into a tub of ice cream because you're depressed as fuck. The second reason is due to decreased physical activity and a more sedentary lifestyle. Television and video games play a huge part in this, but so does a genetic aversion to team sports. The third reason is due to disrupted sleep patterns. People with ADHD often have a skewed circadian rhythm, which means we're sleepier during the day, but we also have trouble sleeping due to hyperactivity and impulsivity. One of the other unfortunate symptoms of ADHD is that we get a greater level of dopamine activation in those brain reward areas when engaging in what scientists describe as hedonic eating. Eating a pie and a bag of chips, knocked back with a can of cherry coke at the local petrol station, doesn't seem too hedonistic to me, but whatever. The unfortunate reality is that if you have ADHD, then yes, you are almost certainly getting fat. We are unfortunately terrible money managers. I'm so bad at managing money that I blew through a £50,000 trust fund within 18 months of getting access to it when I was 18 years old. I'm so bad at managing money that Her Majesty's Inland Revenue withdrew an overdue tax bill directly from my bank account rather than relying on me to pay them back. I'm so bad at managing money that I transfer letters from the bank directly from the postbox into the bin without ever having opened them. Quick squeeze check for the new bank cards aside, that is. I'm so bad at managing money that my wife is burdened with managing all aspects of our financial lives, from mortgage and bills through to wages and tax. Because if it was left to me, we'd be out on the streets within a year. And finally, there's the end game. You see, ADHD is not just one thing, it is 100 things. Each of the differences in our brains contributes to a huge swathe of behaviours, and those behaviours have, like one alternate universe branching off into another, significant differences over the course of a lifetime. A couple of months ago, I posted a video about being diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and this is a great example of one of the endpoints of a million bad decisions I made over the course of my life thus far. Every time I gave in to impulse to buy a Cadbury's cream egg, or a packet of cheese and onion crisps, or a sweet and sour chicken with egg fried rice, ooh, that sounds good, or another pint of lager, or an extra scoop of ice cream in the bowl, I proceeded that little bit further on down the line to fucking my pancreas and developing diabetes. With ADHD, we have difficulty quieting that voice that says, "Go on, mate, it's just one box of fried chicken." Every tiny decision creates another branch in a tree of decisions that negatively impact our lives. Our inability to study well in a traditional classroom environment, our woeful track record behind the wheel of a car, our inability to resist the urge to tell our boss to shove his stupid fucking job up his stupid fucking arse and to fuck off while he's doing it. That may or may not be a true story, the last one. All of these decisions, tiny ones and massive ones, compound into significant differences over a lifetime. And that, my friends, is why Everything Everywhere All at Once brilliantly encapsulates what it is like to have ADHD. Our thoughts are everywhere. Our attention is everywhere. We are interested in everything, and we receive a wideband broadcast from our senses every waking moment of the day. I got bored one day and I put everything on a bagel. Everything. All my hopes and dreams, my old report cards, every breed of dog, every last personal ad on Craigslist, sesame, poppy seed, salt, and it collapsed in on itself. Because you see, when you really put everything on a bagel, it becomes this: the truth.